I see we're recording. Are we live? That I
We're
can't
live.
quite. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, good evening. I am calling to order the Land Use and Building Management Committee meeting of Wednesday, September 4th. It is 7 o'clock. Tonight we have with us council members Greg Burnett, Nicole Eady. We have Nicole Ayers, DeJuan Wiggins, myself, Barbara Smith, Jim Frayer, I see. And so I think I got every, and there is Councilmember Heather Dunn. Okay, first item, next item on the agenda is public participation. Is there anyone who would, who is in the attendees who would like to speak? Oh, I see a few. Okay. David Westmoreland. Oh, yeah, Joe Mataferri, I see. You know what, since I already called, I brought David Westmoreland over, so let's go ahead and let him speak, and then we'll go to you, Joe, okay? Hi, David, you can go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Good evening, members of the Land Use Committee. I just wanted to speak briefly on the proposal to purchase 6 Butler Street. And I thought I'd share a little background. A couple of years ago, I think it was 2022, and I'm sorry, I didn't, David Westmoreland, 50 Elmwood Avenue. And I'm I'm a member of the Redevelopment Agency, Lockwood Board as well. I'm not speaking on behalf of those organizations. But a couple of years ago, the Redevelopment Agency and the Historical Commission jointly funded an effort with a landscape architect in town, a preservation landscape architect, to look at a new site plan, developing a new site plan for Matthews Park. And all of the constituencies were represented: Stepping Stones, the print making shop, and the Cultural Alliance, along with the Lockwood Matthews Mansion and the Historical Commission, Parks and Recs, etc. And we did work through a number of iterations. We did not finalize a plan because it became very apparent. I'm sorry, my dog is acting up.
I hear Coco there.
It became really apparent that because we had heard that it was a possibility that 6 Butler Street might become available. And we looked at that, and it made a dramatic difference in the possibilities of the things we can do for the park for the citizens of Norwalk. So I'm delighted that this has reached this point, and I just wanted to offer my full support for that purchase of 6 Butler Street. It's super important. This is a once in 100-year opportunity to add to the park. Just a little bit more of history. The park, when the city first acquired it in the 1940s, was actually almost 30 acres, and it lost like 12 acres over time to I-95 and to Route 7 development. So this is an opportunity to get at least a little piece back. And it will also make a big, big difference in how we can integrate the developments next door and the art space into the park. So I'm all for it. And the other thing I wanted to speak in support of was the renaming of the track and field to honor my dear friend, Mary Roman. She gave many years of service to the city. It was just a wonderful person. And I wholeheartedly support that. And I'm genuinely touched to see that on the agenda as well. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. And we can turn over to Joe Mataferri now, who is already in the call. Joe, you may go ahead. You'll have 3 minutes to speak.
It'll be shorter than that. Joe Mataferri, I was a past resident of Norwalk for over 60 years. I live in Port St. Lucie, Florida. I still come back and forth and work for the Board of Ed in summer camps. Dave mentioned about Mary Roman. I just want to speak on her behalf, and I hope we can move it on. There are letters that was sent. If you see them, you can read through them and it'll tell you about Mary Roman if you don't know her. But she did work at City Hall for 25 years in the mayor's office. She was on many committees for the city of Norwalk. Athletically, she was an Olympic winner at the senior games. She's done so much for Norwalk, and that track meant a lot to her, and Norwalk meant a lot to her. And like George Albano wrote back years ago, Mary Roan, a Norwalk treasure, and that's exactly what she was, a Norwalk treasure, and she was missed. Just a quick story: we had an old timers meeting like on a Monday, and before we knew it, she was gone. She might have been the first victim of COVID at Norwalk, or one of the first victims of COVID. So I hope you move this on. It's deserving. She's done so much for the community, and she's missed in the community. I still feel like a part of Norwalk. So hopefully I'm moving on. Okay, that was less than 3 minutes.
Only about a minute. Well done. Thank you so much.
The next step is if you guys do move it on, it goes to Parks and Rec. Am I correct?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the Oyster Festival.
Okay, moving on to the next attendee with their hand up. It looks like Vladimir Mariano, if you could move him over.
Hi, yeah, Vladimir Mariano here. I wanted to speak on the item here with the license agreement for 3 Belden Ave. So I run the Fairfield County Makers Guild, and I just wanted to actually just talk a little bit about who we are and what we do, just to give a background on that. So we're a nonprofit community makerspace here in Norwalk. So what that means is we have a space that we've equipped with a bunch of creative tools for individuals to come in and use. And normally these would be, it would be too expensive for one person to try to acquire all these tools. So we make them accessible to our broader community. And the kind of tools we're talking about, we have 3D printers, laser cutters, sewing machines, some woodworking tools, metalworking tools. So it really allows or gives members of the community a place to go to kind of learn a new skill, seek a creative outlet, work on, an art project, and also pursue an invention they have. We have actually quite a few members who are using the tools to create a working prototype for an invention that they have and bringing it to market. So there's really no other place like this. And we've been running for 10 years now. And, not only the tools, but we have sort of this community of a culture behind a makerspace is really one of people who are just love learning new things. They're curious. They love being a part of a collaborative community. There's this culture of sharing knowledge with one another. So we have members who have really diverse interests and expertise in different areas. And it's all about sort of this place where you have this knowledge exchange. So it's a really unique place to the community. And, we run workshops teaching range of things from artistic applications like jewelry making to learning how to, code in Python to control a motor, for example. So it's like I said, it's a unique place here in Norwalk. I think we have just a great opportunity here to partner with the city and continue providing this service. So I just look forward to or want to speak in favor of this and look forward to the partnership that we have that we'll make with the city.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mariano. Next, we have Patsy. If you can move Patsy over.
Am I moved over?
You are moved over and we can hear you. Go ahead, Patsy.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I want to speak on 2 issues. Number one, Mary Ronan. Mary and I worked on so many different city projects, many years at the YMCA and on fair housing and other city activities. And so I'm delighted that she's being appropriately honored. She was a close friend and a wonderful person. So I'm very excited about the naming of the track for her. The other item is 6 Butler, which I am urging the city to move forward with the acquisition of that property. I have been a proponent of acquiring that property for probably 30 years. As a real estate broker, I actually had it listed many years ago, so I'm very familiar with it. And as you all know, I am quite involved with the park and the surrounding areas, not only through my decades of being involved with the Y, but now about 25 years being a leader at Lockwood Matthews Mansion. The park is really set right in the center of the city of Norwalk, and it is now becoming a wonderful cultural and community center. And so it's very important for us to acquire this adjacent parcel. Even though it's small, it's another addition to the park. And as we are experiencing really thousands of new residents within a ball field from the property, the whole area is just becoming so much more active, and it's only going to continue to grow. So I hope that you will be positive and not lose this opportunity, and to purchase and acquire the property for the city of Norwalk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patsy.
You're welcome.
I see Kieran Somaya. If you could move Kieran over, please.
Thank you. This is Kiran Somaya. I'm also speaking to support what Vladimir Mariano mentioned earlier. I'm a member of the Fairfield County Makers Guild. I have been teaching jewelry making workshops to the community, basically teaching them the art of wire working or wire wrapping. This is a beautiful platform that we offer to the community to not only learn these techniques, but also have been selling our creations or our art at farmers markets and other local community outlets that we have. At the same time, I've had the opportunity to learn so much at the Guild by using the 3D printers, the laser cutters, and utilizing what I've made, using these equipment to actually incorporate in my jewelry making techniques, which I'm also happy to share that the community members can take advantage of. So just supporting, to provide this service and continue the partnership with the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there, I do see someone, the name is Miller. If you could move Miller, Mr., Ms. Miller.
And sorry, I didn't real Mrs. Miller.
Mrs. Miller. Yeah, if you could just state your name and address, please.
Lisa Miller, and I live on 38 Hollow Tree Road here in Norwalk.
Okay.
And I'm a Norwalk resident, and I'm also a longtime member of the Makerspace. I just want to say a couple of kind words about that. I was able to receive a tremendous amount of help with my product invention, the Ice Glare Ice Dispenser. So I think some people might see it just as a hobbyist space, which is great too, but it really can also help generate business, because particularly in helping smaller business like myself with the development of product development, and don't have a huge overhead, which I do not have. So I think too that the central location will also make, 3 Belden Avenue, it'll help make the space more accessible to the community at large, and especially younger people being right next to the library. And this will also help it be an outlet for their creativity. I've known Vladimir Mariano for a long time. He's always run this space in such an inclusive, organized, and helpful manner. And I know he will continue to do so, and he can benefit the entire community.
Thank you very much. And then I also see Sun SP, if you could move them over. And if you could just give us your name and address, please. And you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Rowan Peck. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So I've known Mr. Mariano and the Makerspace better part of 10 years. I'll just give you a quick intro to who I am. My name is, again, Rowan Peck. I'm the Chief Technology Officer over at Certiscan Technology, and we're located in Stanford. And when we started 10 years ago, as Vladimir pointed out, we didn't have access to a lot of the standard tools that would be needed for the kind of manufacturing that we do. The business and the service that we provide is we print babies in hospitals. So if any of you guys have kids, I'm sure you have that little piece of paper with a footprint. That's for years been done with ink and paper. We've fast forward to today, we're doing it digitally, providing security, mainly, we're a security company for infants. We're associated with NCMEC, which is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. In association with them, we store those footprints. To date, we have about 1 million footprints in our vault. We're in about 200 hospitals nationwide, and Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. And we're a startup 10 years ago, and we utilized the Makerspace to help launch and catapult us with the kind of equipment that we needed to design. In saying all of that, I'm just trying to point out the necessity of places like the Makerspace and the service that Vladimir and all the people that are there provide. It's invaluable for me, it was. But for other people and the relocation to where they want to go and giving them a broader exposure would be vital. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Just raise your hand digitally. Okay, looks like we are all set there. So I will close public participation. Move on to the next item, which is the approval of the minutes of August 7th, 2024. Do I have a motion, please? Mr. Freyer, thank you very much. Are there any changes, additions, deletions, corrections? Okay, I didn't see anything myself.
I did. See, I did
Go
see
ahead.
one correction. It looks like page 6, number 2, and it's the very last line before B, Board of Education. I think it's supposed to say years. It says 5 to 10 here. I think it's supposed to say 5 to 10 year plan. That's the only thing I saw.
5 to 10 year plan. Okay, we'll make note of that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, seeing no more, I will call for a vote. All in favor of passing the minutes as amended, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in favor, abstentions. Okay, Ms. Ayers abstains. No. Mr. Wiggins? Okay.
I'm
well, let's move
approving.
on. Okay, got it. Okay, so that's 6 yes, 1 abstention. All right, moving on to old business. Item A, review schools hazardous materials remediation strategy plan. This is something that we've added to the agenda, and we have had a couple of quick minor updates, but I understand that Bill Hodel is here to give us a more specific update tonight. So Bill, I'll just go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what we are mandated and we do have in place is an asbestos management plan. I may have mentioned that in the past. What that is the state mandates that we know or we identify where the areas that affect the school and have a plan on remediation sometime in the future. They do not list demands such it has to be done ASAP. So we come up with a plan. Over the past 9 years, we've done about six schools, and we primarily focus on floor tile. The reason we focus on floor tile is that is most common area where gets touched and gets worn by all the school occupants. Inaccessible, non-friable areas such as behind walls, above ceilings, are not part or not mandated under the asbestos management plan. So what we do is we typically start at the end of the school year. We have teachers pack up. That's quite a process. And move all the furniture out. We have to cut the bottom of some walls, quite a few walls in some cases, because there's floor tile under the walls. We might have to remove some cabinetry and prepare each classroom with absolutely nothing in it other than their radiator casing. In comes the crew to abate, and they develop what we call as a containment area. There may be one classroom as one containment. There may be 6 classrooms as one containment, or 6 classrooms as 6 containments. They come in, they abate, and they have an environmental consultant in the process of testing the air 24 hours as the process is being done. When all of the floor tile is removed, they continue the air for about 24 hours and send those samples out to an independent lab. When those samples come back clean, they are then allowed to take down the containment, and then we call the second group in to reinstall the floor tile. Now, at that same time, the group who abated that room, they're moving on to the next classroom or the next hallway, and they are allowed to be in the building in doing so because the area where they are working have tested as clean air. Once the new floor tile is in, we need to then refinish the floor, bring in all of the furniture, and then we need to bring the teachers back a week, maybe 8 days early, so they can get their classrooms ready. So the process of abatement over these past many years, primarily focusing on the floor tile, is quite involved. So we plan to remain with the asbestos management plan, which is basically focusing on floor tile. That plan is managed on an annual basis, and then it is fully updated by our environmental consultant every 3 years. What does that mean? They come back, they re-inspect, they identify, they send the report to the state. We are in compliance. As I look forward to next summer, we are planning to do the floor tile at Fox Run Elementary School. We have prioritized the buildings over the years. We have done many. The last one we did, I think, was Roten. That was last summer. That was phased over 2 years. That was a large scale project. Fox Run is planned for next year. We believe we can do it all in one summer, and we're going to turn that over and then come to this board for more funding to do the next school. I suspect with the much talked about HVAC projects that we're going to talk about, that there could be some more abatement at 1, maybe 2 schools that may not involve the flooring. So when we plan ahead for the HVAC grant, we have planned to do central air at Naramek and central air at Rowayton. Those buildings are old. We suspect there's some asbestos in the ceilings where they may run ductwork. Could be through the roof in certain areas for a fan on the roof. So we suspect next summer there may be some more schools being closed down for asbestos abatement, but that won't be as nearly as involved as the floor tile. That will be select abatement, such as go into 3 classrooms, go above the ceiling, remove X amount of square feet, put it back. You would not remove the whole ceiling. You would just remove a certain portion, move on to the next floor, the next classroom, and then the classroom after that. Maybe even at the same time, while there's no plan developed just yet, they may just run the ductwork and hook it up at a different time. So in addition to Fox Run, we may be closing down more schools next summer for the HVAC grant. As I said earlier, at least 2. Now, while we do this, as I mentioned, it's quite an operation when we do the floor tile. Can we have other people in the building? Technically, yes, so long as they're over 18. But with the amount of work in removing and replacing flooring, it's hard to get other trades to come in. You're bumping into each other. We're moving all the furniture to the gym. In certain cases, we have to rent a storage container for all of the equipment and paperwork that the teachers have in their classrooms. So, and then we have to bring that back. In the event we send out a test sample to get tested by an independent lab for final air, in some cases that comes back and says, you don't have final air. That means you have to go back, go into the area, probably spend a half a day, a whole day, readdress in certain areas, take that sample again, a new sample, send it to the independent lab, it comes back clean, now that can be turned over to the new flooring contractor. So it's a time-consuming process, and it is a mandate, and the primary focus would be on the floor tile and minor work in the school that we can afford so long as we're not bumping into each other. While at the same time we're doing that, next summer I am also planning to replace lockers at Rowayton Middle School. That's going to be a big process. That will not involve closing the school. I plan to be in front of this board in the next month or 2, requesting permission for whatever contractor is the lowest bid. In addition to that big capital project, we are looking at underground oil storage tanks. That would be at Brookside and Tracy. And at Tracy, we will convert the boiler from oil, since we're taking the tank out, and we're going to install natural gas, which has already been outfitted to the school. In addition to those 2 projects, at Tracy, we are planning to upgrade the electrical power so that school can have air conditioning. Right now, the school is only outfitted with 600 amps. A typical school of that size is 1,200 amps. They are requesting air conditioning. We couldn't possibly do it without bringing in a new feed from Eversource and upgrading the current switchgear that is undersized. So we're looking at a pretty big and busy summer next year, coupled with the air conditioning projects. It's going to be quite a bit of approvals between now and then for money expenses. So that's my update for next summer. I can run down the list of all the projects we've done this summer, all the way from converting a classroom into a Montessori program at Brookside. Many schools receive.
I don't think you need to do that, Bill. I don't think
Okay.
you need to do that, Bill. I mean, I think, we really want to focus tonight on the, the hazardous materials, the asbestos abatement. I do want to ask you a question. You mentioned Fox Run is up for asbestos abatement next summer. So I'm going to assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you currently have floor tiles at Fox Run that are taped with that, I know that it's an asbestos tape that you use, which is why you have them on the plan for next summer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Or there's loose tiles, right?
There are loose tiles. In fact, over the past few years, we have done some select removal. It got so bad, so we did that over a long weekend. So that school is definitely on the list for the next abatement project.
And then just a follow-up to that question, say you had a situation, where you had a different school where suddenly, the tile situation became much more hazardous. You had more asbestos problem than you do in the school that is planned for next year. Would you move that school up because it was in a more serious situation?
Well, yes, we would, but we have a good look at the entire district. We don't suspect that's going to happen. But I'll give you, for instance, I think it was last summer, just before the summer began at Nathan Hale. The principal brought us into a classroom that quite a few of those floor tiles were popping up. And it was probably, I don't know, early June, late May. We immediately taped them. As soon as school ended, we did abatement just from that one classroom.
Okay.
But we can do select areas and afford that. In fact, that school was still open for the summer. We had that abated the last 2 weeks in June where there are no classes.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay. All right, very good. Thanks very much, Bill.
Thank you.
Okay, let us move on to new business now under Board of Education, school construction project updates. Dan, I'll turn that over to you for South Norwalk Elementary School and Norwalk High School.
All right, can you hear me all right?
We sure can.
All right, let me share my screen. You see the presentation?
Sure can.
Okay. So South Norwalk Elementary School, site development cut and fill is ongoing. This is grading and fill for the parking lot areas primarily. As well as the cut and fill, we're installing site utilities. That includes the drainage, sewer, fire service, and domestic water, which is all in progress. Under slab utilities have been completed and the concrete slab on grade has been placed for the entire building. Structural steel erection began in late August, and the first sequence is nearing completion. We'll look at some photos in a moment. The next steel sequence will be erected in September. I believe it's starting next week, and the final detailing for the second sequence will begin, or will go into October. At that point, MEP overhead layout and rough-in will begin in October. And just an update on the properties that were being purchased. Several of the properties on Oxford Street have been purchased and closed on. We've extended our fence line to those properties to include them as part of the site. We're currently cleaning, doing a review of the materials in those buildings to determine how they need to be demolished. And then we'll go through the permitting process to demolish and continue extending the site onto those properties. And last month, we met just after the P&Z meeting, and the P&Z meeting did approve our amendment to the special permit, which extends the construction limits of the project. Here's a photo looking to the east of the site. The first sequence of the steel erection, you can see on the first half of the building with the crane in the background, and behind, just so there's some reference point, behind this would be South Main Street. Looking from above, this is just before the upper field where the multi-use field will be. To the right is what we're calling Building A. The slab has been poured in that area, and then to the left is the steel in place, and this is as of 9/3. So this is a recent photo. And we've relocated the construction trailer now that we've taken over a few of these properties. We can see kind of in the background 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the homes that have been purchased by the city. Just over to the left here is the area which is being completed now. further left, this is the South Main Street. Down at the back of the photo would be Meadow Street Extension. And just a overall photo that same details, just a little harder to see, but everything in one photo. Any questions on South Norwalk Elementary School?
Anyone? It's exciting to see the structure going up.
Yeah, it's the project is moving quickly, and in contrast to the high school, which is a much larger building, it's getting out ahead. So as expected, but much more exciting news at South Norwalk than the high school. It's a lot of the same. So.
We do have a question. Our council president and chair of Recreation and Parks Committee did join the meeting much earlier, and I did not note that. So please note that. We can check the exact time. But Ms. Young, you have a question or comment?
Just a comment, really. Thank you, Chair. I had a question. So I didn't hear, are we on schedule? Or where are we with that?
Yep.
Ahead? Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, we are on schedule. There were a few hiccups at the beginning, but as with any construction project, we had some workarounds. We were able to make it work, and we're still tracking right on schedule with this project for an opening in fall of 2025.
That's great. All I can say is that this is an exciting time for District B and the city. So, and I'm glad to hear that things are moving forward as planned. I can't wait to see what this really turns out to look like. I do have a question, and I don't know if you have an answer to this. So those properties that were purchased, do you know the time frame for demolishing them, or how that's going to work?
There's a few steps. Time-wise, I don't know the permitting process, and I know some of these buildings may be older and fall under some historic requirements for notification and demolition. But right now, the CM has priced the additional work. We have that. We're ready to approve it. We are talking to, if I can jump back to my first slide. At the bottom here, we have under budget, additional land acquisition and development, reimbursement rate TBD. Mm-hmm. We've reached out to the state and are in conversations with them about including the improvements for those areas as part of the project within the existing $76 million budget, which we're asking them to acknowledge the change in the project limits, because typically outside of the project limits, it's an ineligible expense that's not reimbursable. So we're hoping to get some feedback from them and approval before we approve that change and move forward with the work. I think the demolition probably later this fall. I don't know all the permit durations for approval and the historic requirements, but it's probably 2 to 3 months out if I were to guess, my best guess.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Freyer.
Yes. I did this great update, and I've driven by that place, and I'm just astounded at the amount of steel that's already gone up there. It's amazing. The place is huge. And I'm happy to hear that we're on schedule. Are we still within budget? And are there any flashing red lights as far as budgets go?
Yes, we are still on budget. There are, and the budget on this project is pretty healthy. And part of that request to the state is that we're able to do that additional work on those other properties within our construction contingency, owner contingency, without a concern of an overage. And really most of the unknowns come early in the project when we are breaking ground, whether there's more ledge, if there's more blasting and rock removal, as well as contaminated soils And I think the blasting worked out right along our budget. The contaminated soils, we removed a little more than expected, and it's a small amount that we went over that was covered under an allowance that we had carried in the GMP. So right now we're in really good shape moving into the build out of the building. So budget wise, I think we're healthy.
Great. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Okay, any other questions before we move on to Norwalk High? Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Jumping to the high school, cut and fill work under the building footprint has been completed. So that's bringing the building footprint to the grade that we need to start building up. Soil export from the site is in progress and will continue into the fall. We do have a lot of contaminated or polluted soil on the site that we have been hauling off. Site utilities, we'll look at one photo of one of the storm retention systems later, but that work is in progress. The rammed aggregate pier installation was completed in August, and we've showed some pictures of that equipment installing that. And just for the magnitude of that, I think it was just over 2,000 piers that went in within the building footprint under the foundations and under the slabs. So it was a tedious process, but necessary for the soil conditions on site. Concrete foundation footings and wall installation is in progress. It'll be ongoing until March of 2025. Just as we're still on this photo here for reference, just past this wing, which is the Norwalk High School wing, towards the center of the building is where we started. They're working their way around the Norwalk High School wing, and then towards the back of the site. So when we see the photos of the foundations, you'll have an idea where they are. So here is one of the foundation footings and walls, the formwork. We have I apologize, my formatting was off, but we have the pump truck for concrete filling these areas. This photo was taken on the 4th. Looking towards the middle of the building, you can see we still have quite a bit of site, but from that side opposite of Narragansett, here is Narragansett in the background. We're working across the site from kind of the existing high school side, and opposite of Narragansett towards King Street and Narragansett. Here are some interior footings that are being formed. Once those are poured, the pier foundation will be poured on top of that, and that's where the structural steel will land across the middle of the building. And this is, you can see in the background here, this the construction entrance off of King Street is closed. This is that parking area right off of King Street, and this is one of the stormwater detention systems going in. We have several of these across the site, and some larger ones that will go into the new parking lot once the existing building is demolished. You can see this is probably about half of it, with the excavation extending about twice the length of what we have here. And that's what we have for the high school this evening. Any questions?
Mr. Burnett?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned the contaminated soil. Was the amount somewhat expected, or you said there was a larger than expected amount? So what might have contributed to that, or
so there were
some kind of scope as to, was that to some degree expected that there would be that amount of soil needed to be removed because of contamination?
So there's kind of the long answer to this is, initially during our GMP preparation, we had quite a bit estimated for the contaminated soils. During the review of those numbers and kind of the unknowns, it was reduced a little bit, which helped us remain within the budget. When we started to establish the building footprint and test the materials, we ended up a little bit over that estimate for this phase of the project. We went back and did additional test pits. We kind of developed smaller sections of the site to identify where contaminated was, polluted, reduce the cost to dispose of the materials, and we were able to reduce it significantly. I think we're probably just over what was estimated originally right now, and we're tracking that, and that's still I think as I described, the upcoming activities that's going to go into this fall. So our estimate right now is slightly over what we have in the GMP, but that's worst case scenario based on what we know. And part of that difficulty is we did do a number of test pits. We did look into the material under the turf field in select areas, but without basically destroying the turf field to do a test pit every 20 feet, which was not feasible at the time, and then reopen it for sports last year in the fall when football came back. It wasn't possible. So there was a large area with the field and the track that we weren't able to do test pits as frequently as we probably would have liked. We did do those around the field, outside the bleachers, down in the softball field in front of the building, to get the best information we could to develop the GMP. But the turf field did, to a degree, reduce how much information we had when we put together the GMP for the project. So
Any other questions?
Right now, it's not a significant concern, but it's something that we are watching closely because the cost to dispose of a contaminated soil is about $150 a cubic yard. And when we're removing thousands of yards in different areas, it adds up pretty quick. So we are tracking it closely.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Any further questions before we move on? Go ahead. You want to finish up there?
So
Can I just make a comment? I just want to say,
Sure.
sorry. I just want to say thank you. I work at Norwalk High School every day, and going into this, I was very concerned about the disruption. They have been really great. There's not trucks coming in and out as we're trying to get into school, and it really has not disrupted the education. I was really worried about heavy equipment, banging around and stuff like that, but they've been really respectful and lovely, in their work with the school. So thank you so much. Please pass that on to them.
Yep, will do. Thank you.
That's good to hear. Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Okay. All right. Thanks, Dan. Let's move on to item 2. Oh, you have to finish up on your schedule there, right? Sorry.
Oh, all done, but it's just the schedule. It's not letting me zoom in. Apologize. But the new building, we completed fall of, I don't have it on here.
27.
Fall of 27, and then construction of the parking lot, the football field, tennis courts extends into 2028. So just high level.
Going as planned.
Yep, more on schedule. We started foundations as planned. There were some struggles with the rammed aggregate piers. They took a little longer than expected, but that Gilbane stayed on top of the contractor, got more equipment out there, more labor, and maintained the schedule. So
Great. Okay, now, thank you, Dan. We'll move
no problem.
on. Okay, so we'll move on to item 2 under Board of Education. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Integrated System Services LLC for the enhancement to school security access control improvements at Brian McMahon High School for a total not to exceed $107,158.45. Account number noted. Will someone move that item, please? Thank you, Ms. Edie, moves the item. We have already approved some of these school enhancements, and my understanding is Brian McMahon is the last project here. And so we have Ryan Harold, who's the District Safety and Security Supervisor with NPS, to talk about this project. Go ahead, Ryan, I'll turn it over to you.
Yep. So you are correct. This is our final school that we need to complete. And I'd be remiss to say that in lieu of this morning's tragedy down in Georgia, when it comes to school safety, it's impossible to eliminate all possible scenarios. And when we build our infrastructure, whether it's our cameras, our door alarms, our response protocols, all of it has in mind is to limit the deviation of human error when these things come in. So our door alarms are an obvious one to know who's coming in the building both ways. So all of our doors have cameras on them. So our schools are getting alerts that a door is open, and we have a system internally to investigate that right from our security desks. So this is our final school. It's really a door alarms are kind of a low-hanging fruit. It's something that's really basic and foundational when it comes to school safety. So I'm glad that obviously the first 19 projects have been approved. This is our final one, adding just again yet another additional layer of safety and security to the over 2,000 students and staff that attend Brian McMahon and CGS.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Are there any questions for Ryan? Yeah, school security is it's of the utmost important, and you're right, and another tragedy today is horrifying, and so this will provide 24-hour service on all of the doors in the building.
Correct. This is a foundational layer. We also have another layer going on top. Respectfully, I would not like to discuss that on a public forum, as I'm sure you could understand. But this is just another layer in there. And yes, it does provide 24-hour monitoring, 24-hour notifications. We are able to customize each door in each location, coinciding with how that's used operationally. So obviously, for example, our main entrance will be on a different timing alert system than maybe a back entrance at the kitchen or behind the building.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Any questions? All right, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, everybody.
Okay, moving on to building management. Item 1A, I'll move 1A and B together. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements and other documents necessary to acquire 6 Butler Street, Norwalk, Connecticut, in an amount of $1,400,000 plus standard closing costs. Account number noted. And 1B, Connecticut General Statutes number 824, referral of proposed acquisition of 6 Butler Street, Norwalk, Connecticut, to Planning and Zoning Commission for review and report. Will someone move that, please? Mr. Burnett moves the item. And so, I want to point out first that we have approved the ARPA funds. The Common Council has approved this through the Finance Committee, the ARPA funding for the acquisition of 6 Butler. And so Darren, I see our corporation, one of our corporation counsel, Darren Callahan, is here. to discuss this, as well as Jessica Vonacek. So who's going to start? Jess, shall I turn it to you, Jess, first?
Good evening, everyone. I can start. It looks like my camera's a little delayed, and I'm not sure why, but we'll give it a go. I'm just going to share my screen so that we can talk a little bit about 3 Belden and 6 Butler, if possible. 1 second so I can share. You'd think I'd have this down pat after this long of mucking around with Zoom videos. Let me try. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great.
But if we
I'm gonna
could
turn
move
my
on, yeah, if we could move on to 6 Butler, since that's what we've.
Yeah, it's at the beginning, actually. Are
There
you
we
able
go.
to see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. Just change it. There we go. So we're here to talk about 6 Butler and the acquisition. Thank you so much for introducing it. We're really excited that that the Common Council approved the 1.4 million for the acquisition of 6 Butler. I think we heard from a couple of folks in public comment about how long the city has been trying to be able to acquire this property, and it seems like since I arrived here about 5 years ago, it's been a constant topic. And so we've been offered this really great chance to be able to purchase the property. And so just so that we're all on the same page, looking at 6 Butler, we are, I just wanted to give a little bit of a geographic look at where the slide is, or where the actual site is. And we heard from a number of different folks that it is between the Norwalk Art Space and Stepping Stones and Lockwood Matthews, and really allows for this amazing connection in order to be able to create this connectivity and this mobility. And at the same time, this area is really experiencing a pretty fair amount of growth in the sense of the YMCA site. We're seeing about 200 units of housing going up there, not quite 200, a little bit less than that. And then also the Toll Brothers site is under construction as well. So, we not only picture this as a connectivity opportunity for all of the folks that are currently living in Wall Street West Ave, but also all of the residents that will be moving into the area. The site acquisition itself is 0.19 acres. It is currently an empty site at this particular point in time. And if you were to look at it from Butler Street, you would see it's just a fence that is across the property. And so it's really not being utilized. The location of it is right directly beside Farrah Park. And what comes along with this acquisition with the 0.19 acre site is 30 parking spaces. And those 30 parking spaces are located in that Toll Brothers development, which is 30 structured parking spaces that we would have deeded to the city in order for us to be able to use. And so not only is the value for the property itself and being able to create that connectivity and being able to allow pedestrian walkways and additional bike lanes and potentially additional parking, and in addition to expanding Farrah Park, it also includes those 30 parking spaces, which we know are really needed in the area. At one point in time, the Lockwood Matthews and Norwalk Art Space were utilizing some of the parking across the road, across West Avenue, right beside the YMCA site. And so, the city is looking to be able to understand what is possible on that side of the road as well, and what that site could be used for. And so, this just really ensures that there is parking to be able to support our nonprofits and our local amenities, and allows us to be able to offer the community this connection point. So I will leave it there. If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those questions. And Darren's also on, he's really knowledgeable about the acquisition as well. And so, we're bringing it to you now because we know that we'll need to go through we'll have to go through planning and zoning for the 8-24 and also the common council approval. But in addition to that, there'll be a little bit of background that we need to go back and forth on before a contract can be agreed to, along with any phase 1 environmentals that might be required. And so we're bringing it forward tonight to make sure that we have enough time in the ARPA timeline before December 31st in order to be able to acquire the proper approvals to move this along.
Thanks very much, Jess. Yeah, it's really important to note that you know, approval tonight would send this to the Planning and Zoning Commission before it comes to the Common Council. I mean, I have to say I'm really excited about this purchase. I was thrilled when we were able to allocate those ARPA dollars to this purchase. I think it's really important to you know, the people who use Matthews Park and Farah Park. And Farah Park is just such a lovely little gem right alongside there. And so, you know, it allows for us to really, you know, just expand upon our park space. And those 30 parking spots, I think that, you know, I'm really pleased about that, because that was something we lost when the hospital pulled out of that you know, property across the street. So that was so disappointing. So I'm really thrilled that we're getting those parking spaces as well. Does anyone have any questions? Ms. Dunn, you were first. Go ahead.
Talk a little bit more about what your plan is for it, why it's going to planning and zoning.
Yeah, Darren can actually answer that question better than I can. It's illegal. It's laced with legality, so I'll let him answer it.
Thanks, Jessica. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can.
Great. So whenever we have a statute, it's statute Connecticut General Statute 8-24. And there's a variety of times when this city's engaged in certain activities, this being one of them, that it's required to bring that proposed activity to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a review and report on whether the activity conforms with the city's plan of conservation and development. In this instance, it's the acquisition of real property, and that is one of the categories, one of a series of different categories in which that's required. So it's simply a step in the process to properly acquire property consistent with the Connecticut General Statutes, our local charter.
Okay. Thank you, Darren. Mr. Burnett. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You weren't.
The plan is to keep it open space, green space.
So we're going to design a plan with TMP, but there are sort of 3 pieces to it. I think the one piece is definitely an access point for vehicles and pedestrians and bike traffic. That's one. The second is that we will take a look to see if there's a possibility of including parking spaces on there, just to be able to support the those organizations to a little bit more than even the 30 spots. But also, in addition, expanding Farah Park. So I think, you know, in my mind, the goal is the access point and also the park itself. And the parking spaces would be a bonus, but with the 30 parking spaces we're getting in the building, then we'll have to see how the site lies out. I think that the site is about 0.2 acres, 0.19 acres. So that's only so much room to work with. And so I think that access point is really the priority, and then trying to get the park expanded. But again, if we can fit a few parking spaces, then I think we will try to do that as well. And TMP will work on that plan.
I guess the reason I'm asking is I'm wondering about the trees. Is there an idea that we're cutting down trees? Which would, you know, be concerning.
Yeah.
I understand it's a lot of grass now that it would be asphalt. But,
I think there is so the goal is to not cut the trees down. We definitely don't want to do that. We've been planting so many that we don't want to go and take others down in different areas. There is a little bit of a tree line at the back of the site. So we would need to sort of clear that out, I would imagine. And but I don't know to what extent. And I think we would do it to the most, you know, to the minimum that we would be able to remove. So I think taking the least out as possible would really be the goal. But I have noticed that the back of the property does have the tree, it is tree lined. So we're gonna have to figure out where that access point can happen.
But it looks like there's not a lot of tree canopy on the side.
Yeah.
Are you all set, Ms. Dunn? Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Burnett, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. From a finance standpoint, two questions. One, what is the estimated standard closing costs that you envision for this acquisition? And two, I know we allocated $1.4 million, but do you anticipate that we might come in under 1.4?
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Yes.
can you ask the first question again? That cut it. Oh, Darren, do you want to cover it?
Sure.
My question again, do I need to repeat it? My
No,
question.
I think I have it, Council Member Burnett. So I just put that was language that I added to the authorization, and I typically add to authorizations when we're acquiring property. There are standard adjustments that are done for real estate tax purposes. There are some costs in the acquisition, for example, title search fees, appraisal work. Here the appraisals, appraisal work, if that's being done, and title insurance are the primary ones. Here the title insurance is probably about $4,000, $3,500 roughly, the title premium. So it's not going to swing the total cost significantly, but until we're at that point at the tail end when a closing statement can be prepared, the final number, marginally may change. It may be slightly less than 1.4 million just based on the real estate tax how the real estate tax adjustments are done.
Any other questions? All right, I will call for a vote. Please raise your hand if you are in favor. 1, 2. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that passes unanimously. Great. And that will move on next to planning and zoning and then to the common council if it is approved there. Let us move on to items 2A and 2B. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a license agreement for use of 2 rooms, 468 square feet on the first floor and 324 square feet in the basement at 3 Belden Avenue, Norwalk, Connecticut, for 3 years with 2 options to extend for a period of 1 year each for a licensing fee of $404.50 per square feet. And 2B, CGS Section 824, referral of proposed license agreement for use of 2 rooms, 468 square feet, first floor, 324 square feet basement at 3 Belden Avenue, Norwalk, Connecticut, for 3 years with 2 options to extend for a period of 1 year to Planning and Zoning Commission for review and report. Will someone move the items, please? Ms. Dunn, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you, Jess, and then we will see what questions we have.
Great, thanks everyone. And I'm just going to turn the video off so that it's not so jarry. 3 Belden Avenue, it's a really exciting site that has, really gained some history in the last even couple of years with the city of Norwalk. It's actually located in the Wall Street West Avenue area. It's right directly beside the Belden main library branch. And, as you all know, we've been talking a lot about the public library there expanding, and we've been talking a lot about how to put capital funds into being able to do work to make that happen. And in addition to that, thinking about the capital funds for the planning exercise for that, we've gone and not too long ago, we used ARPA funds to be able to purchase the site for 1.42. We actually purchased the site for 1.4, and then but we got approval for $20,000 extra for soft costs. And we were able to purchase 3 Belden Avenue. In addition to that, we were able to acquire a portion of 11 Belden as well. And so all of this has been background to being able to establish the library as an expansion project and a renovation project. And you heard from a number of folks during public comment about the Makers Guild. And what happened was in April, we heard from the Makers Guild that they were, we actually were talking to them because we were thinking when the library expands, it'd be really cool to be able to offer some sort of maker space in the actual library. And we wanted to get ideas from them on how to think about that. And, you know, what they were saying to us was that the building that they were currently in, which was actually on North Main up by Linden, the landlord wanted to use the building for a different purpose, and they were going to be out of a lease and they were going to be out of a spot. And so they were wondering if they could work with us in some meaningful way to be able to offer free workshops for the public out of 3 Belden. And they didn't say specifically 3 Belden. They said, do you have areas where we could potentially offer these public workshops? And we said, yeah, we have 3 Belden. And 3 Belden is great because in November of 2022, we launched the Business Development Center. And this completely aligns with being able to support small businesses and entrepreneurs and innovation and research and development. And so we were saying, you know, we think that the Business Development Center might be a space for you to be able to just even temporarily think about holding these public workshops. For us as a city, it helps a lot because we actually have the ability to program the space in a meaningful way, and being able to bring the public in and educate the public not only about these workshops, but also that we offer storefront improvement programs, and we have the Kiva Hub, and we've been doing all of these things. And just as a side note, for the Kiva Hub, you know, we've been open almost 2 years there, and we've supported almost, I think it's over $275,000 in grants just in Norwalk, for Norwalk businesses alone. And so being able to further educate the public about this building being here and about it being used in a public space is great. And so, you know, that really developed into thinking about how the Makers Guild is an important piece of the community and ensuring that they have the ability to make sure that all of their materials and equipment are open to the public in a more meaningful way, and making sure that they were able to find a space in Norwalk instead of going to a different location or going to a different community. And so we started to talk to them more about 3 Belden. And, you know, it's been great because even in the public workshops that they've been holding for the last couple of months in the space, they've had between 15 and 20 people at each one. And so, you know, they are being utilized. And so we talked to them about a license agreement, and the license agreement is for a 3-year period. And I think one of the questions is, you know, hey, what about the library expansion? And, you know, how is this going to impact the timing of that? And so just, again, it's related to this, but it's a bit of a side note. And I wanted to explain the timing of that particular project so that we know we have better perspective on kind of what we're talking about here. So we're in a position now where we're developing an RFP that will go out to update a building facility plan and also an architectural plan for the library. And so what that looks like is, hey, what does the existing library space, what is it used for? What could it be used for? What amenities would we like for the library to have? And then how to actually build an architectural plan where all of those puzzle pieces come together to create a footprint for the library. And that will tell us how big the library needs to be and how much space needs to be dedicated to each use in order for us to meet community need. And so that RFP needs to go out, at which point in time we would end up contracting with a consulting team to be able to create the building facilities plan and also the architectural plan and construction drawings. And at that point in time, we believe that would take about 18 to 24 months for the whole, to put the RFP out and also do get to 90% construction drawings. And so at that point in time, we'd actually then need to go out for RFP. We would need to develop an RFP again and go out for RFP for construction. And so The reason for the 36-month license agreement in this case is because that's how long we picture we will need to be able to have the library expansion project be ready, right? Between the two RFPs and going through the interview process of bringing the two consultants on, and then also doing that really extensive community work with the buildings facility plan and also that architectural design, because that's the place where we're going to want to talk to the community and ask the community what they would like to see in the library and what we want to prioritize, and being able to build cost estimates in order to be able to support that. So I offer that because there may be a question about why that 36-month period of time is in that particular license agreement. And then just going back to what you're seeing on the slide here, you know, these are pictures that Vladimir had shared. The picture on the bottom left is a picture of their old space, but you can see how many people are there, and they're all, you know, on computers and sewing machines and doing all sorts of wonderful things. And then the picture that is on the right-hand side is really interesting. The Makers Guild actually used a 3D printer to print out 1,000 of these little plastic brackets that they made into masks during COVID. And so they gave out 1,000 free masks during COVID to the community as part of their project. So, you know, just a couple more points, and then I'll wrap it up for questions. But, you know, the real takeaway here for us is, one, it aligns with small business and innovation and R&D and all of those things that we've been working so hard to support as a city. But the second thing is that, you know, the Makers Guild has agreed to offer 5 free public workshops each month. And so for us, it means further programming in the Business Development Center. And it also means that we're able to ensure that that is, you know, that we actually have the ability to program that building and make sure that there are people coming and going every day out of it, and also being able to spread the word about all of the services that the city has to offer, and especially to that particular group of innovators and entrepreneurs, where they may be developing these amazing patents and really cool things, and they may just need a little bit of support to get their business off the ground, or a little bit of support in order to be able to figure out the next step. So I'll leave it there for now, and if there are any questions, Darren and I are happy to answer them.
Thanks very much, Jess. Questions? Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll go to the financial side of this. What is the actual monthly cost that this nonprofit organization will be paying the city to utilize this space?
Yeah, Darren, do we have that exact number? I believe it's about.
Yes, we do. So, building management, Alan Lowe and his group have set some parameters regarding nonprofit use of public buildings, and historically it's been around $2.50 a square foot. I can't really speak in total detail because I haven't been thoroughly involved in the business discussions of it, but I know that they've recognized that inflation has hit Norwalk as well as the rest of the world, and have increased that square footage fee. So currently, what's being proposed is $4.50 a square foot for the total square footage. It comes out to $3,564 per year. We have it proposed them paying quarterly. We're not talking about much space here, which is why it's a low fee. But as Jess mentioned, there's even though again they are paying in line with what we require nonprofits, there is a value add here in the form of in-kind, you might call in-kind services, which is the programming that they're going to offer to the community on a monthly basis, the multiple programs. So in my mind, it's something to factor in.
A follow-up question is, what is the city's cost to maintain 3 building at this point on a monthly basis?
That I don't have. I know that there was an analysis done by Alan's group of the costs, but sorry, I don't have that information readily available.
It's about $4,000 a month.
So if it's $4,000 a month to maintain the building, and Darren, you just stated that this, what we see before us, this licensing $450 per square foot is the cost that we're going to charge them per year, not per month?
Per year.
Yeah, so it sounds like the city's paying a lot of money to maintain this building that we're not getting back by having this organization in the building. And my follow-up comment to this is why these numbers are not in the authorization.
So I can offer.
There's no mention in the authorization that this licensing fee is $450 per square foot per year. I was anticipating this would be per month, but that you're saying this is a fee per year? So where's the financials behind this request? I don't see any.
Yep. So I can offer a little bit of insight. It's not actually $4,000 per month. It's $3,400. Just as a correction point, it's about $41,000 for the year. So $3,400 per month. So a couple of thoughts here. One is that we don't plan on just having the Makers Guild in the building. In addition to that, we also have the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and we also have the NAACP. And so we're going to have to work with those tenants to be able to work on securing a license agreement with those folks as well. They're actually tenants that have come over when the RDA, when the redevelopment agency was leasing the building from the first taxing district. So one of the things that we need to do is incorporate those fees. And also there's additional offices that we have been working with different nonprofits to be able to understand if they could use the space, and if so, if we would be able to bring forward license agreements for those users as well. So that's just one piece of insight as far as the space goes. The second piece to the answer, I think, is that what we tried to do is work with building and code enforcement, or excuse me, I'm so used to saying building and code enforcement, sorry about that, building maintenance team, to be able to understand what rents are being paid across the board in different city buildings. And our understanding is that the $4.50 is the standard amount in which a number of the leases and a number of the license agreements are set at per year. Now, one of the things that we've talked about with building maintenance and with the mayor's office is that we should be doing an analysis where we look at all of the city buildings and we understand the city buildings at a universal level, and we look at the costs that are the carrying costs for the universal level of buildings, and being able to understand what rate should be paid per square foot, depending on what that analysis shows. And so what we've talked to the Makers Guild about and what we've included in the license agreement is that although that rate is the starting rate, that as the analysis for the buildings progresses and we have additional information and more information on the rates that should be charged, that we would revisit it with the Makers Guild in order to be able to make sure that it's equitable across all of the buildings. And so right now, the $450 per square foot is in the license agreement. And that's what, again, we met with building maintenance, and that's what the recommendation was in order to be able to make that equitable across the different city buildings. But we believe that the analysis is needed, and we've been clear with the Makers Guild that we'll need to revisit that amount depending on what that analysis shows.
I just to continue my questioning, let me preface my comments by saying I'm 100% supportive of the work that the nonprofit is currently doing, and I think it would be a great service to the city of Norwalk and city of Norwalk residents. However, I do have quite a bit of hesitation about this authorization request by not having the specific financials in front of us. Just tonight, I heard one answer saying it was a yearly cost, and then a response to that saying it was a monthly cost. I don't see any specific financials around this. The cost to maintain 3 building versus what is proposed to be coming in by having an organization in that building, it sounds like there's a cost burden to the city. And we've had, let me finish. We've had similar situations where we've had organizations in city buildings, and throughout the years, we've had issues with maintaining those buildings and offsetting the cost of maintenance in those buildings based upon the funding that we were receiving from those license agreements. And in some cases, there was no license agreement in place at all. So I would hope that we can get those specific numbers before we were to consider this authorization. So for me personally, I would not support this authorization until seeing the specific numbers around the cost to maintain this building, as well as the income that will be coming in to support the building. Again, prefacing by saying nothing against the organization. They're doing great work, but I'm more concerned about any organization in this building and the cost to maintain the building versus the revenue coming in to offset that cost.
Jess and Darren, can I just ask you if you can clarify the exact amount per year and per month? And can we potentially, amend that so that we can include that in the authorization? Are we able to do that tonight?
So let me try to answer your question, and my apologies to Councilmember Burnett and interrupting him when he was speaking. So the city has, as a matter of policy, historical policy, charged a per square foot amount of $2.50 per year. That it has done that. It has existing leases and license with numerous entities. For example, the child daycare providers such as Odyssey, Stepping Stones, Growing Seeds, so forth and so on. That has historically been the case. So so in tracking that, we would have followed that on a per year basis. It was increased from $250 to $450 because there's been internal discussions about raising that rate. It hasn't been raised in numerous years. So internally, it's my understanding that Alan's group, in discussion with perhaps the mayor's office or other departments, determined that there should be a higher rate charged for nonprofits. The $250 just has been static for too long, but it is a per year rate. So what is proposed, and I do apologize for that authorization, it should have that extra word in there, square foot per year. That's my fault. And it's the this body can amend the current authorization to add the additional language during this meeting for clarity, and I would recommend that it do so. But just to be clear for the record, based on the square footage proposed between the first floor and the basement, it would come out to $3,564 per year, and that the monthly would just be that divisible by 12. 64, which is just shy of $300 a month. Again, the charge and fee for space is outside of my realm. It's more of a policy decision for the city of what programming it wants to promote and to what extent it's going to support those nonprofits.
And then I just want to add something that we've talked about as well, which is really the value of those 5 evenings that are going to be publicly offered events, right? So from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night, 5 times a month, it's also going to be offered with all of the expertise and mentoring on site as well, which we believe has, is to a large extent invaluable, because that's the piece that we're, it's not a tangible amount of money. It's not tangible monetary figure, but for the community, given that 15 to 20 people are attending each of those, we think that that's where a large amount of the value lies with this particular license agreement.
Okay, let's, Ms. Ayers, do you have a question?
Thank you, Chair. I do agree with both Councilperson Burnett and also Ms. Vanacek. I am in support of this nonprofit. I am in support of this nonprofit going in this particular space. But I think what this conversation has begun to is pull the Band-Aid off to have us re-look at the policy. Now, of course, we're not going to be able to address that policy tonight, but this committee really should look at the policy. And one thing that I think should be looked at in regards to the policy as we're reading the space is how big an organization a nonprofit is. I wholeheartedly agree that the benefit that the city is going to give by allowing residents to attend the classes is we can't put a dollar on that. We can't put a dollar on that. But I do understand my colleague when he is raising the point of being fair and equitable to all people. So there is some work that what we possibly need to do in committee in addressing that. But I do not want to, and I'm using, if this is the wrong, you please everyone forgive me. I do not want to penalize this particular nonprofit because we haven't done some work. They are just coming with offering what they have to offer, and we haven't done some back work. I don't want to penalize them for that. So if we can clean up the language in a reasonable amount of time on this meeting, I think we should do that so that the amendment can read how it needs to be collectively. I am familiar with the city having annual rates. I've never known the city to say square root by month. And that's in all the nonprofits that I have worked with that have rented from the city. It was a yearly rate. We go way back when Neon 98 South Main Street, their lease was $1. Because the benefit of what the nonprofit was bringing was so great to the city, their lease was literally $1 for a whole building. And so again, I think we don't want to harm those people who are coming just to say, can we use this space to enhance the city and the residents? We just need to do some background work.
If I may just add briefly, while Ms. Ayers was speaking, it did occur to me that I should point out, and I think it's beneficial to understand that the gross square footage of this building, which includes the basement, a portion which is being utilized or would be utilized or proposed to be utilized by this tenant, is 6,000 square feet. So they are looking to utilize, and technically speaking, the basement is not really generally considered livable area. So they're taking really subprime. The majority of the space they're taking is this, really subprime space in the building. But as a percentage of the overall square footage of the building, they're proposing to roughly utilize about 13 to 14% of the building. So I think in kind of looking at in perspective of the gross square footage, the contrast between the carrying costs that Jess mentioned and the proposed fee is not as maybe stark as maybe it initially appeared to be.
Thanks, Darren. Excuse me, Mr. Freire, I'm gonna jump over to Tom Livingston because I think he's gonna be able to help us out and make a few comments based on Nicole Ayers' comments, just in terms of, going from 250 to 450 per square foot. Do we just lose him? Oh, there you are.
Me?
Oh, hi, Tom.
No, I just moved.
Yeah, as chief of staff and prior chair of this committee, I think that, you probably have some good history that you can share and help us out with this.
Yeah, I'll try. Thank you. Yeah, just to give a little background, and unfortunately, Alan is not here. Alan, obviously, we all know, is obviously laid up right now. But to go back a few years, and I think for those of you who are on the committee back 5-6 years ago, we did an examination, Alan, that is, did the examination of all the city properties and came up with what was deemed to be a fair charge per square foot. There was a charge for nonprofits that was to cover basically the city's costs, or utilities, I should say, utilities. And then there's also a separate charge for religious institutions, just because we didn't want to give them, keep separation of church and state. We've looked at that over the years. No changes were made, but Alan and his team have been reviewing all the city leases, and it's just been one of these things that, with all the other work going on with Alan and the city and the schools and his health, that has been sort of delayed a little bit. But the bottom line here is we are trying to be fair to all, as Ms. Ayers so aptly put it. I mean, I think we're being fair to all nonprofits. I don't think historically, we have not charged different rates for different buildings. We've averaged out the cost over all the city buildings. And one of the reasons for doing that is that you don't want, some organization to have to pay a lot more doing the same thing just in a different building. You want to treat everybody the same. So that's one reason this has been a 450. Well, we're trying to get to 450 across the board. But as I was saying before, Alan and his team are looking into this, and as was mentioned before, with the idea of trying to get more uniformity and look at the numbers across the board, as I said. And one last thing I'll just point out, that there is a value to the city also to having tenants in the building. You don't want to have an empty building. That's never a good idea. You want somebody there. But anyway, I'll answer any questions, but I hope that helps.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Tom. I do think it was helpful, and I think that's important to recognize too. It's always better to have tenants in a building, particularly while we're waiting out this time where we can actually begin the library renovation. And I also want to just comment on something that you had brought up, Jess, is the fact that this is an actual use that we would use in the library once it is once we have the space for it. So I think that's really important too. Okay, I'm going to move on now to Mr. Freire.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Smith. I agree with what Ms. Ayers just was talking about, but I think it goes a little bit deeper than that too. Is that the city is not we're not a commercial realtor, and we're not renting this to make a profit. I think the whole idea of any properties that we own that we want to provide for the use of nonprofits or churches or any other service, that's because the city is getting something out of it. Okay, it's a benefit to the city. This is part of what the city does, is that we offer these things for the benefit of our citizens. If we went to take a look and say, okay, the golf course, for example, is rented to the Golf Authority for $1 a year. One could say, well, wait a minute, that's crazy. I expect that any tenants we put in that building are going to probably maintain the building to some extent, probably maybe even make some improvements to the building that are not going to be the cost of the city. But I think importantly, that we have to just put it in perspective, is that this is a service that we're providing to our citizens. And as Ms. Ayers mentioned, that we can't put a price tag on some of these things, and you know, we could wind up with the next Elon Musk working in the basement of that building someday. So I think that we have to look at this in perspective, and it would be nice to be able to get $42 a square foot per month, but you know, it's just unrealistic, I think. And that's not the purpose of doing this.
Thank you, Mr. Freyer. Ms. Dunn.
Hi, I just want to make a quick comment that thank you so much to Jess. What I really like about this proposal is that it's has proof of concept, that it's something that can scale up, that there is usage being done in this amount of space. The amount of per person usage per foot is actually relatively high for something like that. It's something that we need as a community, and I'm really happy that when you talk about community, and economic development, I think it's a great use for us, and thank you very much.
Any further comments or questions or thoughts? Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we amend the language here and to add, I just want to be sure that I'm correct here, that the, licensing fee of $450 per square foot for a total of $3,564 per year. Is that correct?
Yes, you could either do that or just
Okay.
put per year after square foot.
Well, I think, it's better to be as precise as possible. So let's add the total. And so I'll go ahead and read the whole thing. I'm going to move to amend 2A to authorize, and so we'll have to vote on the amendment, and then we can vote on the on it in its entirety. So I'll move to amend, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a license agreement for use of 2 rooms, 468 square feet first floor, 324 square feet basement at 3 Belden Avenue, Norwalk, Connecticut for 3 years, with 2 options to extend for a year of 1 year each, for licensing fee of $4.50 per square feet for an amount of $3,564 per year. All in favor of that amended language, please raise your hand. Okay, opposed? Okay, that amended language passes unanimously. And so seeing no further questions or comments? Any further questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Burnett.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. One area we didn't touch on is the parking. What, if any, impact will the nonprofit going to the space have on the library parking? One of the key reasons that we obtained this property initially was because of the parking situation related to the library. And now that we have a organization moving into the space, what will be the impact to parking availability for the library?
Yeah, so I can answer that. I think the acquisition of 3 Belden was for a couple reasons. I think one was definitely parking related, but 2, it was also related to thinking about the potential expansion footprint of the site, the library site, and how that site could be useful in order to be able to achieve that. And also related to the portion of 11 Belden, which we also purchased this year as well. So the answer is that the library does use a portion of the parking. We actually have transportation, mobility, and parking working with the library board in order to understand exactly how much parking they need and at what points in time during the day, knowing that we have the library parking lot, the 3 Belden parking lot, the portion of 11 Belden parking lot, and we also have the 30 parking spaces in the Eagles parking lot as well. And so they're working on a plan in order to be able to look at exactly the number of spaces. And that's a big part of the expansion project as well, and understanding what space we have available and what is possible in order to be able to support. What I can say is that the makerspace will be accessing the site at different times during the day and different times during the evening. The majority of their times are actually between 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock after the library is closed. And so for a large extent, we haven't heard one single complaint or one single comment about a parking issue related to the Makers Guild using those parking spaces in that building. I think that if we were to think of between 15 and 20 people attending the public workshops, the parking that is supplied between those three areas, in addition to the street parking, is enough to be able to support that group of people in a pretty consistent basis. So they have been using it. We haven't heard any complaints. And I think that the parking, from what I can see and based on the number of months that they've been using the site, we haven't heard any complaints. And so, we talk really closely with the library board, and we're in touch with them, probably once every couple of weeks for the expansion project and for thinking about parking and thinking about the landscaping in the front and some of the work in which they're doing in the library itself. And so we're in constant contact with them. And I'm sure that if there were any concerns about parking, we could address that with signage, or we could address that as needed.
So if I can just follow up on that. So at current, the library board, have they signed off that they do not have any concerns with the population size coming into this space and possibly impacting their parking? Have they signed off on the fact that they're aware of it and they have no concerns?
So in a formal official capacity, we have not taken this to the board, and we've not asked the board to sign off on it. What we have done is talk to the board and talk to the leadership of the library board of actually incorporating this use into the library expansion, so that the library expansion would actually include a makerspace where this nonprofit could potentially run the space for them. So I would say not only have they not voiced an issue about the parking, they have actually voiced excitement and an eagerness to have conversations about incorporating a space like this into the architectural drawing stage of what the library expansion will look like.
Can I make a suggestion on that topic? Is it possible that if there were ever to be a problem, right? I think we all really care, as has been evident over this past year, that there is adequate parking for people using the library and very close parking for those who need it. For the makerspace, if there were to be a problem for the library with parking, could they simply, ask the people who are attending those workshops to use the Yankee Doodle garage? And it really is just across the street. I think with the upcoming work being done on Wall Street, if I'm not mistaken, there's going to be a pathway. At some point, I know it's not immediate, but I think that there's going to be some easy access to the Yankee Doodle garage. So I'm just throwing that out as a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's why I was emphasizing that we work so closely with the library board, because I don't feel as though they would be hesitant to notify us or let us know if they had concerns about the users of 3 Belden and any concerns about parking. So I just, we have a really close working relationship with them, and if they had any concerns, I doubt that they would hesitate to call us. And of course, our department and all of the city departments are here to find solutions for all of the users and make sure that we're doing what we can for all of the residents and making sure that people have access to the spaces in which they need. So we'd be more than happy to work with them if there were any concerns that popped up.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, Mr. Burnett, because I think, that's, that really is a concern. We want to make sure that the library has the parking it needs. Ms. Edie.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just had a question. I'm curious. I don't know where I've been. I never knew about this space. So I'm just curious, how do you advertise for the classes? And if you can just provide a list of the classes.
Absolutely. So, yeah, so we're going to be, we use social media to push it out through Facebook and Visit Norwalk and Norwalk for Business. And so we've been pushing out the workshops through that way. The other thing that happens is that with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, they offer 11 workshops that are professional development oriented each year. And so they offer one a month between January and November. And they focus on, for example, during COVID, they focused on, you know, not having socialization because we're not in the office and how to kind of deal with that, or being able to have tough conversations over Zoom or over the telephone because we're not in the room with the same person, you know, or how to, they've also held courses and workshops on how to build a business plan or financial plan and how to start up a 501c3 and how to do all of these things. And so that's really great too. Those are all hybrid, which the Makers Guild probably won't be, obviously, due to the fact that they use the equipment on site. But the Hispanic Chamber workshops, they're getting around 20 people as well. And it's a split. It's usually like 10 people in the room and 10 people on Zoom. And so, you know, it's starting to build a real community around the Business Development Center and being able to have people know that it's there. We also, you know, this isn't a question, but now I'm excited about it. And so I'm going to tell you that we also get, you know, probably a couple of handfuls of people that are just random walk-ins every week, you know, where people are knocking on the door and coming in and saying like, oh, you know, I really want to start a business, or I need a loan and I didn't get approved yesterday and I need help, or, you know, like, hey, my friend told me that you guys are offering these like facade program grants. And so we're seeing these people walk through the door at the Business Development Center, but it really is becoming, you know, a collection point or a meeting point, a meeting space for the community. And so we put it out through all of those social media outlets. And Sabrina also works with folks to be able to email it out to the businesses that are on our business development list. And also we work with the chamber to make sure that all of the businesses know that they're going on, because in that case, some of the businesses have folks that work for them that may actually need apprenticeship or may need more training. And so being able to work with somebody to solder a computer circuit board or whatever it happens to be, they can go there and talk to somebody about it and actually learn how to do the skill. So that's how we're getting the word out on it.
Okay, thank you. I think this would be something good to push through, like all the communities. Maybe, like, I don't know if you already give the information to like Adam, maybe if they can post that kind of information, because it sounds helpful. I like it. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely look at
that. Thank you, Ms. Edie. Mr. Burnett?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and I hate to belabor the item, but question, is this approval time sensitive? And I raised that question because, you know, we went through some very long and difficult months as it related to the parking situation at the library. And we invested a tremendous amount of money to ensure that we could resolve that situation. We heard from several residents about the importance of close parking to the library. And I just have a hesitation that if we have not done our complete due diligence in discussing this parking situation, a organization, nonprofit coming into 3 Belden, and ensuring that they're in partnership with what we're about to do, I have slight hesitation that we haven't done our due diligence. If the library is on board with this and they don't see any issues, then fine, great, peace. We're at a good space right now. But if we haven't completely done that, I just hate to go through the same difficult times that we went through before, where we move forward on this and then we get backlash from from the library and the attendees at the library that we took away parking that we fought so hard to get just less than a year ago.
Right. So I guess a few responses to that. One is that, again, you know, that site was purchased for parking, but in addition to parking, it was purchased for the actual footprint of the site in order to think about the expansion of the library. The second point is that where we have done due diligence is that we know that it's going to take 36 months to be able to do the library expansion planning. And what we don't want to happen is have 3/4 of a building sit empty, which is susceptible to lots of different things because no one is coming and going out of the building, right? And so we're sitting with a building that's empty, that we need to maintain without any user and without any benefit coming back to the community, or with a benefit coming back to the community, but maybe not the benefit that we could be seeing coming out of it because we potentially would leave the building empty for 3 years. And I think, you know, the third piece is that, again, while we didn't get the official library approval because that's not necessarily required through this process, we were mindful enough to go and talk to them about it and go and talk to them about wanting people in 3 Belden that are potential users of the library expansion in order to be able to ensure that there is commonality between the sites and also complementary uses, and making sure that we're starting to group users or potential users closer together so that people start to identify all of those amenities and all of those services being offered in certain areas, right? I think the other piece is that, you know, we feel like Yankee Doodle Garage is very far away, but there's a piece of requirement that says that the library really doesn't require parking because of the public parking facility. Now, I'm saying that not because I believe it and not because any of us believe it, but I'm just putting it out there because that's something that, you know, that is something that is written. And we know that that's not something that we believe in, which is why we've been trying to acquire different ways to support the parking. But I do want to say that with the work that is going on with Wall Street West Avenue, that connection to a large extent will very well be strengthened. And then the last point of what I will kind of say is that, you know, there's been, and I won't belabor this point, I'll just leave it short, but, you know, we really need to work with the library in order to be able to ensure that library patrons are using the library parking, right? And so there's a difference between the library parking lot and all of the other parking lots that are in the Wall Street West area. And I think we know what that difference is. And so a lot of folks tend to go to the parking lot in order to be able to do longer term parking in that particular lot. And we really need to work with the library from an operational standpoint to ensure that the cars that are parking in the library and the cars that are parking at 3 Belden are actually patrons of 3 Belden and patrons of the library, and that those parking spaces are not being capitalized because they have no cost, right? And so I think, you know, there's a few different pieces that we've been thinking about. And so, you know, it's a little bit of a long-winded answer, but I do feel like, I think my concern is that I really, you know, my concern is that we purchased 3 Belden and then we have an opportunity to really strengthen the community aspect here. And I really would hate to see the building sit empty because we're concerned that the parking spaces may be used. And I would say the last point is that, you know, they've been using the building since March, you know, and they've been helping us program it. They've been offering weekly workshops. And again, we haven't received one complaint that a library patron was unable to park because, you know, 15 people were parked there at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the evening. So just a little bit of insight as to what we've been seeing and what we've been talking about from a staff standpoint.
Thanks, Jess. Ms. Ayers.
Madam Chair, we have gone down the rabbit chute. I think we need to pull this back a little bit and just understand, even with the conversation around parking, there are hours of our public library. There are days that the public library closes early. I think it's just a conversation that may need to be had to say, hey, just to make sure that everybody has access to what they need to have access to, could we put those 5 free workshops on a day, maybe when the library closes early? So then we are not competing against ourselves. What we have are 2 very important things that the city needs. Obviously the public library, but also this nonprofit that could drastically give skill to our residents. I think this is a really easy fix. It's about talking and communication. And I don't anticipate, I'm very familiar with 3 Belden. I do not anticipate that influx to be so that there is no parking. And I think the city staff touched upon something. We don't have a monitoring aspect on parking right now around the library. So we really cannot say what is going on in those parking spaces because we're not monitoring those parking spaces. We are saying best things might we are saying what might happen, which is good. But I also think that if the people that are all of not just this nonprofit, but all of the nonprofits that are in 3 Belden have a conversation with the director of the public library, I think everybody can come to consensus and everybody can commingle with nicely. But can we come out of the rabbit hole? Because it's getting late.
Great point there, Ms. Ayers. Thank you for pulling us out of the rabbit hole. And I'm going to give our Chief of Staff, Tom Livingston, a moment to.
Thanks. Thanks. I just want to respond to Mr. Burnett's question about is time is important to do this now. And I think the answer is yes. I mean, the reason is we've been talking to the Makerspace for a long time. They've been very patient. We think it's a real asset to the building. But I understand what the issues, and I want to follow up on what you said, Ms. Smith, that if there is a problem, we can address it. We can ask the Makerspace to park in the Eagles lot, say, or there are solutions. If it becomes a problem, there are solutions that we will address and make sure this does not create unnecessary problems. And I will note that the building has been used, and so this is not the first time there are people going in and out of that building. So, but I do understand the problem and if the issue, and if there's a problem, we'll deal with it. But I think it's important to move it forward.
Thanks very much. Yeah, and I think communication is really key, and it is accurate that the library does have nights where they close early, and I think that coordination will take care of that issue. All right. Any final comments? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call a vote for items 2A and B, again, with the amended language that we've already approved. All in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, 1 abstention, Mr. Burnett.
I'm for it. I couldn't get my little hand.
Sorry. Okay, so that's 5 in favor. Thanks, Nikki. Okay. All right, very good. Let's move on. City project, but this is turning into quite a long meeting, isn't it? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so city projects update. Let's can I ask, does anybody mind if no one has an objection, I would like to move the naming of the track up and then do the projects, because I don't think we have Dan anymore. I think you're going to cover this one, Joanne, and you're stuck
yes.
at the end anyway. So
Yes.
okay, yeah. So if no one has any objection, I'm going to move the naming of the track outside of City Hall up, and then we'll do the city project updates after.
Yes, of course.
Okay, great. So item 4, naming of track outside of City Hall. Approve the naming of the track of Malmquist Field, located at 125 East Avenue, adjacent to the Norwalk City Hall building, in memory of Mary Roman, former Norwalk City Clerk and Senior Olympics medal winner. Will someone please make the motion? Ms. Dunn makes the motion. Thank you very much. I think that, we all very much want to honor Mary Roman. So much has been said about her in public comment. And she, really, really was a pillar of this community. a great senior Olympic medalist, city clerk, just very, very active in our community, and we do want to honor her. It was deeply sad when we lost her in those early days of COVID. We have heard from we have Darlene Young here, Recreation and Parks, and if I'm not mistaken, we have Mr. Stowers, who is in the attendees, and maybe we could move him over, Joanne, so we can talk about this. And I do just want to point out that this item also will need to go through the Recreation and Parks Committee. So, the process by which we, do namings is some come through Land Use and Building Management when it is city property, when it involves city property, and then it also goes to Recreation and Parks. I guess maybe do we move that? Yeah, we moved it. Yeah, Ms. Dunn.
I am here.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I can't
Okay.
get video.
Okay, so, it's okay. We can hear you though, Mr. Stowers. Thank you. Okay, so I guess I think what I'll do is I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Stowers, to give us, some information about the field, and then we'll answer questions or comments.
This came to me by way of I think the first person I talked to actually was Greg Burnett about this, and he clued me in on this on Mary Roman. I wasn't that familiar with her, and then one of the former ADs of the Norwalk High School, I think it's Marquette, Mr. Marchetti. Talked to me about this too, and yeah, very impressed with the resume of Mary Roman. She not only was a world-class athlete and actually started the Senior Olympics in this city, which I don't know about Senior Olympics, but I know I was involved in Masters track and field in Seattle, and I've been looking for trying to get my legs, all fixed up. I just had an operation, so I'm looking forward to starting a master's level track and field program here as well. I'm in favor of this. Ken and I also have asked the mayor for money to refurbish the track over there. So I think it would be an excellent time, and we were granted $100,000 to do this. It'd be an excellent time to have a real dedication when that is completed. But I think it goes well. It integrates and goes well with Quest Field. I'm in favor of it. She was not only an athlete, but contributed so many hours of her time volunteering, as Ms. Smith said, on various boards, commissioner of Oak Hills Golf Course, on the Mayor's Police Community Relations Advisory Committee. She was on the Charter Revision Commission, the Norwalk Senior Center Board, so many things. So it's really deserving of this. We don't make light of naming facilities and after folks, but this is well deserved, and I'm ready for this.
Can I ask you a question, Robert? You just mentioned $100,000 that is set aside for improving that the track. Can you be more specific about that? And what in terms of the timing and then in addition to that, if we're honoring Mary with this dedication, will that work be done prior to the naming, and the ceremony?
Well, I don't know about how in terms of sequence that how we should do this, but I know that right now we working with going to be issuing the RFP for a contractor to do this work. And I think it can be done before the end of the year, if we can get it done before the frost sets in. But I'm confident that we can do that.
Okay.
I don't think it has to be sequential. I think we can go ahead and pass this legislation. It has to go before the Rec and Park Committee, but I'm confident it'll pass there, and so we can have that by the time we get that done. I think we can have the official dedication. That's what I think. We've been talking about this for years, so I think we can. But
Okay.
it would be an excellent time.
Okay, well, we have some questions. So, Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can we get some idea of specifics as to what improvements to this, and I hesitate to call it a track right now, this walking path, what improvements are going to be done to this area with the $100,000?
I think Ken is handling this. I think he's on. Ken Hughes, are you? Is he there in attendance?
Was here.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah,
I'm not. I can't understand. I can't.
He's
hear.
no longer.
Yeah, Ken Hughes was handling the actual project. With 100,000, we're not going to be able to do a whole lot. It's not going to be like a rubberized track or anything like that. But we'll be able to. Do some of the under laying, and we'll be able to put pick up what's on top and put down a new surface. But it'll be probably much like it is the surface is now, but it'll be a new surface.
So as a hearing that, having my follow-up comment is, you know, I totally agree with everything that's been said about Mary Roman. You know, as a track and field official, I've seen her actually compete, and I know the level of her performance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think if we're going to name a track after Mary and her commitment to the city, as well as an outstanding athlete, I think it should be an actual track. And I know, Mr. Sowers, I have raised this suggestion to you previously.
Yeah.
Why are we not considering possibly naming a brand new resurfaced actual competitive track at Brian McMahon High School after Mary Roman? Why is that not being considered?
This is the actual request that was proposed and brought to me. And
Mr. Burnett, can I just speak to that? Just from having the history here, the reason is that she worked in City Hall and she was always out on that specific track, and so that's where that came from.
Thank you, Chair. If I could jump in, thank you. You got to my. I didn't get to my mic in time. Thank you, Joanne. I was going to say that, and I think, and this request came from Joe Matafari and Mr. Albano, I believe his name is correct, George Albano, who knew Mary very well, and they too stated that fact. And I think that the question was asked of the folks who presented this, what about at Brian McMahon or one of the schools? And they said very clearly that Mary did not attend those high schools, but what she has contributed to this community, they felt that that track, that area would make the most sense. And as you said, Joanne, because she was the assistant city clerk, because she sat on so many committees and worked, you know, in service to the city. So that was the field, the area that was suggested. And as far as the renovation on the track or any new work that's being done on the track, I will also say that the folks who also put this in writing for this request are having something for Mary in November and would like to be able to at least have some coordinated effort that includes her family who may be traveling. And so whether or not we put it up in November and have to take it down and put up the sign again, I think it doesn't matter, but I think they're trying to make this a coordinated effort. We know, again, it has to go to Recreation and Parks, but there also needs to be the public hearing piece to that. But hopefully we can get this, you all approve this and move this forward. But those are the reasons.
Thank
Hope
you.
that-
Thanks very much for that. That's really helpful to hear. And you know, Ms. Ayers, I see you. I just want to ask one quick question. Was the family also, was the family involved in making the request for the track or path, whatever, at City Hall?
I'm not sure, but I think they are aware of that. Yes, I think that
They're
Joe,
aware.
they're aware of that.
Yeah, but they haven't made a request to me. What happened, how we got the $100,000? The $100,000 was in a fund to actually, way before I got here, to actually expand the parking lot. And that had been decided not to do that. But the $100,000 was still in the fund just sitting there. So Ken and I walked the track one day. We just said, this needs some attention. And so I went to Tom Livingston and I talked to him about it and talked to the finance director about it. And we shifted the money over for that purpose.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ayers, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Kind of the same question, but in a different light. My question is about the actual signage. What is the actual signage? And if you want me to wait to bring it up in Parks and Rec, I can wait to bring it up in Parks and Rec. Is it just going to be her name on a billboard? Is there going to be some type of monument? Like, what is the signage? If we know that at this point, what is the signage going to look like so that people know that this park has been renamed?
We have not got the signage yet, and it'll probably be what we intend to do is have that ready in Parks and Recreation when we get to that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Yeah, it sounds okay. So what we want to understand here is, you know, because we're using city property, and no matter where that would be, right? City property is, it does even includes the schools, right? But you know, it does have to first go through this committee, and then, you know, the final details will all go through the Recreation and Parks Committee. So, you know, so this is just a step in the process. Mr. Burnett.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just to reiterate, the family has, have we actually shown the family the space that we would like to name after Mary? Have they seen a picture of the track and signed off that, okay, that's fitting of, I heard the rationale and I understand that 100%, but I'm just taking into account the family and their view. You know, have we actually shown the family the track to say, this is what the city of Norwalk plans to name after Mary?
I'm not aware of, Greg. It was my understanding when this proposal was brought to me that their family understood that field was that track was going to be the space which would be dedicated.
I'm sorry, can someone repeat? I
think he's saying that he believes that the family is aware that that is the track that the family is aware of.
And
they've seen a picture.
And they have no hesitation about that track. Just trying to understand, get the feel of the families on board with this. That's all.
Can I say something about that?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Dunn.
So Mary, I just adored. I spent a lot of time in Alex Knopp's office, out having lunch with he and Mary and Pam. But and I know at a couple times her son did walk on the track with her. I was there at one point. So I know at least one of her kids is very aware of the track and how she used to walk on it because I think he's a runner too. But yeah, so they are aware of where the track is and where it is and stuff like that. So
that's helpful. Okay, Any other?
We will confirm all your questions and issues in the Recs and Parks committee. We'll make sure all this is confirmed.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and you know, that is where all the actual work of this will happen, is in Recreation and Parks. What we need to do is just approve the use of the space because it's city property, essentially. So, okay, any further questions or comments? Okay, so let's go ahead and vote. All in favor of the track naming, in favor of, or for Mary Roman, please raise your hand. And sending it off to Recreation and Parks.
Me, I can't get my digital
That's
hands up.
okay.
I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Thanks very much. And now we will turn it over to Joanne for an update on city projects. The community center, the Gallagher Mansion, and the HVAC school projects.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will try to make this brief. So a few things I can share, the pictures of the new rec center, but I'm going to, let's see, share screen. This one. Did it work?
Yes.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so we have we've been to the point where we're at 95% complete in the design and drawings inside and outside in order to get a final estimate. We've already done 2 estimates. So by mid September, we'll have all of those details as well. So here are just a few renderings of the exterior, the changes that we'll make in the front. And the foliage and the trees and things like that aren't totally finalized. We'll get to more details in the next set of drawings. So that would be the front. And then the side to back, so behind the colored panels and whatnot, that's where the locker room or the team room facilities are, and then the bathrooms. So the exterior bathrooms that will be available for events that the Recs and Park Division will have, in to the point of possibly movie nights. So there's a lot of activity in Ryan Park that there are no restrooms available for. So that was one thing that we wanted to make sure we had. And so that's some of the drawings that you can see there, and in the daylight and the evening. Okay.
So where are the doors for the outdoor bathrooms?
So they would be right, see the panels to the right of the doors that we should be showing. They're actually yes, 2 restrooms in that space.
Okay.
Yes. So so to the point where we have all of this, the design team is working with all of their consultants to basically get to our 100% so that we can go out to bid, because much of this project is ARPA funding. So we do have to have all of those contracts, et cetera, finished by the end of December. So that is where we're at right now on this project. Any questions there? Okay.
I just
Yep.
want to clarify for the committee that, you know, because we, you know, this is a change from the original design, because that had come in $5 million over budget or something. Am I right? Was it 5? Yeah.
It was about 3.5.
Oh, it was 3. Okay. And we were able to, you know, pick up $1 million of ARPA funding towards the project. But what had to happen was that initial lobby that we hoped for had to be removed. And we're not seeing, Joanne, tonight, the interior design. But if I'm not mistaken, that sort of that block out there where the bathrooms will be will also include internal bathrooms that are accessible
Yes.
from inside. That's what I recall the discussion.
Yes, yes, because that is the gymnasium that's attached to. So yes, there'll be more restrooms in that area.
And then the kitchen will still be accessible. There's still work that will, they'll have access to the kitchen, correct? Is there any change?
Yes, there's community room on the first floor that has a kitchen, and then there's also the teaching kitchen that's on the second floor.
Right. Okay. Maybe, for our next committee meeting, maybe we could see the internal plans as well.
Sure. Yes, those, right.
Okay.
And that's what we have been finalizing and working with the details of all of the objects that Robert and his team have been going over each room individually.
Right. Okay.
Part of the reason why we need $1 million was to keep the outdoor restaurants. Part of the reason why and also to build those interior restrooms that you were just referring to.
Yes, he said basically the additional money, ARPA funding, was to help with keeping those outdoor restrooms in the project, because it is so important to the community to have for those outdoor events. And in camps, a lot of children in camps are out there too.
Yeah, I wish we could hear Mr. Stowers a little bit better, because he's very vocal about what he wanted to see. And so I think we want to make sure he's satisfied.
Okay.
Ms. Ayers.
Okay, I know we had to make some adjustments because of the budget, but maybe I'm just not seeing it. So if I'm not, please direct me to it. I had asked if there could be for those camps like a water, I'm calling it a spigot, but that's not, a water hose or something on the outside for those camps. I do not see that illustrated, and that's not that don't cost us no $5 million.
No.
For the load to put on the building. But I think just because someone who runs youth program and summer youth program, that outside water access is very, very important.
Yes, absolutely. Those details, we haven't gotten that far yet, but that has definitely been part of the conversation. So as well as now we have a water source that is right there, so that, there could be water fountains, I believe has been a conversation as well.
Okay, I'm just going to keep, you're going to get tired of me, Joanne, but I'm going to keep bringing it up because I don't want it to get lost in the plan. I mean, I ran program out of there this summer, and it was no water. So I know how important to have that water source is. Thank you.
No problem. One little piece of tidbit here is that Ken in particular wanted to make sure that the restrooms, the exterior ones, could have items in it that we can just spray with a hose kind of thing to clean them out. So there's definitely some thought behind that with Robert's team. And as we get more into the design and the details, we can certainly address those things. Okay. No other questions on the rec center. I will move on to Gallagher. So Gallagher Mansion and Cranberry Park. So Cranberry Park has currently a garage that the Recs and Park division uses to store all of their equipment that they use out there in the park. So the current garage is falling over or falling down. So half of the project is we're completely demolishing that and we're building a new in the same footprint. So it will have a lot more amenities and brick instead of falling down wood. So that's one large piece, but a couple just informational pieces that we've been able to include in this project that's fully funded by the state. It's a $5 million project that the state is fully funding. And we're able to do some significant changes and upgrades in a new septic system, which needs to be done, and air conditioning for the first floor, so that this property can be used throughout the year. So that was something that was really important so that it didn't sit, you know, in the summer months, without usage. And another topic is a renovated kitchen. So currently the kitchen is antiquated and the electricity needed to be upgraded. So a lot of those items are part of this project as well. I don't really have drawings because it's a lot of just cosmetic and internal that you wouldn't see a lot of other than the garage, which I could always show you, but that's not very exciting. So so that's Gallagher.
Expected completion date for Gallagher Mansion?
Oh, yes, we are planning on completing by the end of next year.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And then quickly, the HVAC, just to give you a quick update, now that we have program manager and we have contractors, design individuals, we met with them last week, had the kickoff meeting. And so now the planning is happening on when they can get in the building, on school days that are off, vacation. So that a lot of that planning and timing is what is being done now, to the point where they are even looking at doing like afternoons into evenings to accommodate. And we are going to be asking for an extension as well as every other school, because they wanted us to have it complete by the end of next year, which is not going, you know, it's just impossible, especially when you can't do the work during the year, only in the summer. So so other school districts have been allotted that, so we will be doing that as well. So that will be complete at the end of 2026.
Great.
Okay. That's all for me. Thank you.
All right. Anyone have final questions for Joanne? Or anything else for the committee? Go ahead, Ms. Dunn. Is that a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
Oh. All right, very good. All in favor? Excellent. Thank you very much for a great meeting.
Chair, this was
Oh,
a
yes,
great
yes.
meeting. This was a great meeting, folks.
It was. Thanks for
think
coming.
I might have to come
Coming,
again.
President.
Have a good night.
Ms. Harris, did you have something, or that's just you're in favor of saying good night? I think. Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.